The Banchakalpadubhasa Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I wanted to share an experience I had. I'm not sure exactly of the year. I'm thinking 1975, maybe 1976. And it was summertime, and Prabhupada came to the Henry Street Temple in Brooklyn, New York. And the temple room was packed. The whole building was packed. I mean, it was designed to hold, let's say, 30 people, and we had 300 in it. Devotees sleeping on the balcony, sleeping on the roof. So many things. And there was a little garden in back of Prabhupada's Darshan room. And devotees were chanting japa and sleeping. It was making a lot of noise. So the temple president, because it was right up against Prabhupada's window of his darshan room. So they said, okay, nobody can be back there. It's a small garden, maybe, I don't know what, 15 by 20 feet. So they said, and they had a guard, different guards. So they were having volunteers. So I volunteered, and I had the shift from about 1 o'clock in the morning till I think it was 4 a.m. Now, you know, when it's dark outside and light inside, you can see very easily. You can't see out, but you can see in very easily. So about 1:30, the light clicked on in the room, and it was Srila Prabhupada. And he came and sat down on his desk. And I was literally not more than 6-7 feet from him. And because it was summertime, the window was open, there was no screen. And I watched Srila Prabhupada. I was quietly chanting japa. And I watched Srila Prabhupada pick up the pages on his desk. Pradumna had done the Sanskrit translation of a few verses, word for word. And they were ready for Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada made a few corrections to the Sanskrit. Then he leaned back and thought. Then he picked up the dictaphone and he spoke a little bit. Then he reached back and took it Bhagavad Gita, read something, spoke a little bit more. Chanted a little japa, thought a little bit more, pulled down his Bhagavatam with the 5 commentaries. Sridhar Swami, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, like that, 5 different commentaries, different acharyas. And in this way, in the course of composing his Bhaktivedanta purport, he pulled down so many books. And I was thinking that I'm getting all the words of the previous acharyas, all the relevant instructions, and they're all flowing through Prabhupada's transcendental brain, and he's taking all of that knowledge and he's filtering it, distilling it, and presenting it just perfectly for the age of Kali, for the modern world, for the Western mindset, for the age of Kali. So I was feeling quite enlivened. Now remember, my mission was to keep things quiet. So I was quite enlivened. And I began chanting a little louder. And then I was thinking, like, all the rivers flow out of the Himalaya mountains, you know, all the sacred rivers, and then they all flow into the Ganga, and the Ganga flows into the ocean. So just by opening Srila Prabhupada's books, I'm getting the association of all these great souls. So I was in my own little neophyte ecstasy. I was chanting even louder. And then I was thinking, and all I have to do is just open this book anytime, any day, any place. And I'm associating with Prabhupada and all these great saints and the timeless wisdom of the Vedas. And by this time I was Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Prabhupada picked up the goblet of water on his desk, tossed it out the window all over me. It was like, hey, I'm working here. Come on, be quiet. You know, I was thinking, oh, Abhishekam, you know. But the fact of the matter is the immeasurable gift of Srila Prabhupada's books. When we open the pages of Srila Prabhupada's books, we're sitting at the feet of all the Mahajans. I was in Prabhupada's room in Chicago. I just thought of this. And again, I can't remember the year. It was when Prabhupada was there with the Radha Damodar party. And so, you know, there were different temple presidents and some guests. Evening darshan. Devotees started asking questions. They would ask a question. Prabhupada would say either to Sri Govinda, the temple president at the time, or to Brahmananda, Bhagavatam, first canto, verse such and such, read the purport. There was the answer. Devotee would ask another question. Prabhupada would say, Shri Upanishad, verse 5, read the purport. There was the answer. And it went on for half an hour. And I was amazed how well Prabhupada knew his own books. And the fact of the matter is that all these questions, oh, stump the Swami, I can only ask Prabhupada what to do. The answers were right there in Prabhupada's books, right there. So the association of Srila Prabhupada, all the acharyas, the Mahajans, timeless wisdom, it's right there. Just open the books. Harikesh told me that he was Prabhupada's servant, and this was confirmed later on. Ramaswar told me the same thing. He heard the exact, well, I'll say that in a minute. So in the early morning hours, when Prabhupada was doing his translating, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, sometimes he would call in his servant, you know, fix the dictaphone, or there was some bug, Prabhupada was feeling sorry for it, give it a little piece of sandesh, take it outside, whatever it was. So, and it was very sweet. You know, he would sometimes reminisce about his early days with his Gaudiya Math and his spiritual master. So Harikesh, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. We're in Vrindavan, Prabhupada's house. And, you know, there's that little vestibule. There's that little ante-room, reception room out in front of Prabhupada's Darshan room. So Harikesh said that he thought he would make some noise. He was ostensibly cleaning. But the real thing, you know, moving the desk, and he wanted Prabhupada to know that he was awake. So, and then Prabhupada would invite him in. And sure enough, his plan worked. Prabhupada rang his bell, called him in. But Prabhupada said, you are making too much noise. Why are you making so much noise? Prabhupada said, you have to understand that I have to choose every word so carefully. These books will stand as the law books for the next 10,000 years. Ramaswar said he was riding on the train with Prabhupada, same thing. He was asking Prabhupada they were on the way to Kumbh Mela, and he was asking Prabhupada a bunch of questions early in the morning, early. And Prabhupada said, please, not so many questions. I have to concentrate. I have to choose. And he said the same thing. I have to choose every word carefully. These books will stand as the law books for humankind for the next 10,000 years. So we have to understand the potency of Srila Prabhupada's books. I was a young temple president. I'm trying to give some reason what, you know, familiarity breeds contempt. We're falling asleep in Bhagavatam. Somebody mentions our name or says some gossip or criticizes, we wake right up. But so familiarity, Prabhupada said, breeds contempt. So, but to remember what's going on when we open the transcendental pages of Srila Prabhupada's books. I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, University of Michigan. We had a little preaching center there. And Tamal Krishna Goswami was visiting with Vishnujan Swami. So blissful scene, Vishnujan Swami is chanting. They have beautiful Radha Damodar distributing prasadam, students all surrounding. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj and I were standing at some distance, appreciating the scene. A gentleman walked up to us. Turns out he was a college professor. Turns out he was a professor of world religions. So Tamal Krishnamurti asked him, "Oh, have you read Bhagavad Gita?" Oh, the man was a little miffed. "Well, I'm a teacher of worldly life. Of course I've read Bhagavad Gita." So Tamal, in his own transcendental way, Tamal said, "Well, did you understand it?" And the man was even more asked. "Of course I understand. I mean, I got a PhD," which Prabhupada said means piled higher and deeper, or we can say permanent head damage, or as I thought of, prominent humility disorder. Anyway, still the man was, "Well, of course I've read it. Of course I've understood it." And then Tamal Krishnamurti asked him, "So what are you going to do?" And the look on the man's face, that the idea that the purports and the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita are a call to action, as Prabhupada says so sweetly in the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, this book is meant to cause a revolution in the hearts of impious people. Prabhupada points out that there were so many versions of Bhagavad Gita. I heard Prabhupada say in the tape 36 different versions of Bhagavad Gita floating around in America. But Prabhupada points out that not one single devotee had been made, a genuine devotee. Prabhupada arrives with his Bhagavad Gita, and devotees start falling out of the trees, coming out of the woodwork, up from under the rug. Hundreds of devotees, thousands of devotees, simply by reading Bhagavad Gita. So that gives you a flavor of the potency of Srila Prabhupada's books. They make devotees. They change the heart. You know, there's a saying, Prabhupada quotes it, that you are what you associate with. What you associate with, you become like. Karma say garbage in, garbage out. You fill your head with garbage, that's what's going to come out. If we associate, Prabhupada's books are a touchstone. We associate with Srila Prabhupada's words, our heart becomes changed. We get a higher taste, higher vision. Things fall into perspective. We get relief. I'm a sannyasi trying to be. And before COVID, we used to travel a lot, but still, we're even busier now with Zoom calls. And people are always asking, devotees, it's a regular question. "Oh, Swamiji, you know, I'm feeling weak. I don't feel enlivened. I'm not making advancement." I always ask them, are you chanting your rounds nicely? Are you reading Prabhupada's books? And if they're honest, almost invariably, well, no, I don't read as, I chant my japa while I'm driving my car, cooking dinner, or, whatever it may be. And, I don't really read that much. I know devotees who've taken initiation who haven't finished Bhagavad Gita. What if Krishna says it's all one and find your home and home in the 18th chapter, There's devotees who haven't finished the Bhagavatam. What to speak of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is just one nectarian pastime after, and it's just like, so if you go to the doctor and you say, "Doc, I'm feeling weak, I'm lethargic, I've got a headache," and the doctor says, "Well, did you take the medicine I gave you?" "Nah, I was too busy." Well, what do you want the doctor to do? So it is sublime medicine, reading Prabhupada's books, and they have their prolific, efficacious effect. They are medicine. So, and we say we don't have time. I'm almost done, but I wanted to I've been thinking about this. We say we don't have time. We were just reading from Prabhupada's quotes. I did a search through the purports again, room conversations, letters about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And there's also Lalit Prasad's biography, A Day in the Life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And it's amazing what he packed into a day. And Prabhupada said he had a gold pocket watch. And you can see pictures of him in his magistrate's, attire. And he's got a gold pocket watch. And he managed his time so expertly. Krishna says, time I am. So, and we don't want to waste it. So if we manage our time, the main thing is to have a time that you read. And, an hour a day, but, I don't want to pressurize anybody. Prabhupada says drops of water wear away stone. Whatever it is, do it regularly. Even if you read only 10 minutes, even if you only read 15 minutes, if you say, okay, I'm going to read 3 verses and purports, whatever it is. I'm going to read 1 pastime out of Krishna book. I don't want people to be in anxiety about, but if we use our time wisely and schedule a regular time, regular amounts, Prabhupada said, drops of water wear away stone. It works, and we'll feel happy and enlivened, and there it is. Has anyone described already Prabhupada getting the darshan of Rupa Goswami and what Rupa Goswami told him?
Not yet, Maharaj, not at least in these discussions.
All right, so I will go with that, and then we're almost done. I heard this from Harisari Prabhu, who is certainly a very bona fide source. So Harisari said he had heard from the ISKCON grapevine that Prabhupada had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. So, but Prabhupada was not one to advertise these things. Something very precious you keep hidden, you keep to yourself. So Prabhupada's not one to flaunt his extremely advanced level of Krishna consciousness. So, but sometimes in the evening when he was getting, just before going to bed, dry massage, Prabhupada would talk about his early childhood or his days with, the Gaudiya Math, or his early days in Vrindavan. He would talk about these intimate things. So in one of those evenings, in one of those moods, Harisari thought, this is my chance. So he asked Prabhupada, I heard that you had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada's answer, that was common knowledge. That is common knowledge. In other words, he didn't deny it. He didn't want to talk about it. He said, that's common knowledge. Didn't want to talk about it. Harisari said he waited. Some time went by, some months, this and that. Again, same time. He brought the topic up again. Prabhupada said, that you do not require. In other words, that's it. I'm not talking about it, But he didn't deny it. So some years later, Prabhupada has left the material plane, and Harisari was talking, he's doing some kind of interview with Gopal Chand Maharaj. Gopal Chand Maharaj is one of the Goswamis at the Radha Damodar temple. By this time, he's an old man. So Harisari asked him, I heard that Prabhupada had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. Gopal Chand Maharaj said, yes, and I will tell you the story. So now we get to the story. Gopal Chand, as a young boy, used to play in the Radha Damodar temple. That was his home, in the courtyard and Samadhi area, Darshan Mandap and all that. And Prabhupada would sometimes sit out on that veranda. Now they've got a little stall there, but it used to be a nice veranda. Prabhupada would sit there and chant japa and have the darshan of Radha Damodar and the other beautiful deities there. And Prabhupada, as a transcendental Sherlock Holmes, caught the boy stealing from the hundi. The boy was stealing money out of the deity's hundi. Prabhupada caught him. Prabhupada said, this is not good. You should not, this is not good. This is the reaction for this is you're in big trouble. Prabhupada said, why do you do it? Why are you stealing? And the boy, you know, a simple boy, honest boy, on one hand, said, I love sweets. I take the money and I go to Loy Bazaar and I buy sweets. Now just see Prabhupada's heart. Prabhupada said, if I make you sweets, will you stop stealing? What do you like? Yeah, it's blissful, isn't it? The boy said, I particularly like para, nice thick para, you know, cooked down nicely. Prabhupada said, I'll make for you. Prabhupada was making sweets anyway. He would make sweets for his guests. You know, people would come, and Prabhupada always liked to have some prasadam to distribute. So Prabhupada would make extra and give it to the boy. And Prabhupada describes old men and little young boys, they're natural allies. So the boy became very friendly to Srila Prabhupada. And the boy's mother, you know, saintly Vaishnavi Mataji, she would cook. She's cooking for her family. And she would send the boy in the evening, you check with Swamiji, does he want some sabji and puris? We'd like a little hot milk, you know, very nice, you know. And so then Prasanna, the boy would bring, Prabhupada would say, yes, I'll have, and she would bring some nice, the boy would bring some prasadam for Prabhupada. So the boy came one evening in the wintertime, evening time, and Prabhupada was all with a chadar and cap and scarf, and he was coughing. Prabhupada had a very bad cold. So the boy said, Swamiji, do you want anything? My mother's asking. Prabhupada said, no, no, no. Prabhupada said, and it's a famous one, how you get rid of a cold? If you have how do you get rid of an unwanted guest? You have a guest you don't want to get rid of, you don't want to toss them out physically, you don't feed them, they'll leave. So Prabhupada said, if you have a cold, you don't feed a cold, and it'll go away. So Prabhupada said, no, no, not for me. Okay, fine, the boy goes home. Later that night, I don't know the exact time, I forget, say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. The boy wakes up because he hears his mother and father talking. So he gets up, he goes out into the front room to see what his mother and father are talking. And they're looking out their window. And they could see across the courtyard, under Prabhupada's light, under Prabhupada's door, was this effulgent light, you know, with that space at the bottom of the door. This light was coming out. And they could hear someone talking, someone with a deep, rich voice, talking with Srila Prabhupada. And you know those temples, those Goswami, you know, Radha Raman, Radha Damodar, Radha Shama Sundar, when they shut those things up, you know, they're shut tight up as a drum. They close those doors, they put that big, you know, and there nobody gets in and nobody gets out. So all the families were present and accounted for. Everybody was supposed to be inside. So who was this stranger who had gotten inside that Prabhupada was talking to? Anyway, they went back to bed. First thing in the morning, first daylight, the boy rushes to see Srila Prabhupada. Curious, you know. He knocks on the door. Prabhupada opens the door. He said, Gopal Chand, now an old man, said Prabhupada was sitting up very straight and chanting japa, very Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No cold, no cough, no nothing, just completely absorbed in transcendence. So the little boy asked, Swamiji, Swamiji, who were you talking to last night? Prabhupada said, I got the darshan of Rupa Goswami. Innocent boy, he said, well, what did they say? What did he say? Prabhupada said, he told me, you go and you write these books, you go to the West, and we will take care of everything else. I'll say it again. You write these books, you go to the West, and we will take care of everything else. So these books are, it's what they call in the military, the tip of the spear. You know, you've got the people, you've got the cooks, you've got the transport, you've got all the, you know, and you've got everyone who brings it up to the front line. And that's the tip of the spear. So we have Srila Prabhupada, his books, they're the tip of the spear. But behind them are all the great acharyas, all the Mahajans. It goes all the way back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Panchatattva, all the way to Krishna's lotus feet. And all we have to do is carve a little time out of our life and read them. Prabhupada, now, I like to read from the beginning, you know, start and go, you know, but sometimes I'll reread the first canto. Prabhupada said, I didn't know if I was going to finish the Bhagavatam. I heard Prabhupada say this personally, Los Angeles. Prabhupada said, I didn't know if I was going to finish the whole Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada said, I put everything you need to know in the first canto. So I like to, read through the first canto. It's, what can I say? The thing is, Prabhupada said it's like a jewel. It has many facets, and you turn the jewel, and it'll catch the light in different ways. Same jewel, but you see it from a different angle. And I find that as I grow, just by the nature of life, I'm 68 years old now. I'm a little dinged and scraped by time. I've been through stuff. And you see the world a little bit differently. By Krishna's grace, I've made a little advancement in spiritual life. So every time I open Bhagavad Gita, every time I read Srimad Bhagavatam, every time I read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Krishna book, Shri Upanishad, Upadesh Amrita, we have this jewel box. Every time I read them, I see it from a different angle. I get something new. I've read Bhagavad Gita, I don't know how many times. It's always fresh. I always get something new from it. So there it is. We've got this jewel box of Prabhupada's books. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Prabhupada said it's like a sugar, Bhagavatam. Prabhupada would say these blissful statements. He'd say, Bhagavatam is like a sugar tree. Somebody can get me the name. I'm a gardener. I like to grow. Evidently, there's a tree in India, and the colloquial name, or the vernacular it's called a sugar tree. And Prabhupada said this tree, whether you taste the roots, the bark, the leaves, the twigs, they're all sweet. Any part of the tree is sweet. Prabhupada said the Bhagavatam is like a sugar tree. Any part you taste is sweet. You have some people that are deep philosophers. They like to go to the philosophy section of Bhagavatam. Fine, have at it. There are other people, Dravida Prabhu loves to memorize prayers. He particularly likes to go to the Bhagavatam and read the prayers. Go for it. Other people, they like the pastimes. They like the, I used to like to read Shakespeare before I became a devotee. Adventure, romance, meaning, poetry, beautiful turn of phrase. Forget Shakespeare. We've got the Bhagavatam. You want suspense, you want villains, you want Romeo and Juliet romance. What do you want? You want poetry? Everything's in the Bhagavatam. It is, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, they called it one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the library at Alexandria, Egypt. And it was supposed to be the repository of all the books of knowledge from around the ancient world. And it burned. So, whatever, dark ages, we lost everything. So they say. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, just as we're not against book burning, don't get me wrong, but just as all the libraries, all the books in the Library of Alexandria were lost, if all the books of the world were lost and Bhagavatam remained, not one thing would be lost. Everything's in the Bhagavatam. It's great, isn't it? Everything's in the Bhagavatam. So don't get hung up on when or how or what. Read the Bhagavatam any way you like to read the Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm particularly fond of reading Madhya Lila. I love Lord Chaitanya's trip in South India. I'm just there, and Lord Chaitanya coming to Vrindavan. I don't know. It just resonates with me. I like those. I like that. What is it? There's that the Buddhist, and they tried to serve Lord Chaitanya the bogus prasadam, and the eagle came in and boom, dropped it on his head.
Yeah.
Where do you find that? Where it's just, oh my gosh, and then each of them has a blissful purport, and so we should not deprive ourselves. You go at it any way it works for you, any time it works for you. But if we read, don't get hung up about the amount of time. Of course, it's very good if you can set a time. but just read, and you will see the world in such a wonderful way. We have the choice. That's the thing. The world is not set by our conditions. We cannot control conditions. We cannot change conditions. And they, in California, they say, if you're depending on happiness, on conditions, if your happiness depends on conditions, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the material nature is constantly mutable. The Buddhists say nothing is certain but change. So if this world, which it is, laws of physics, entropy, where do you want to go? This world is constantly changing, constantly shifting. It is never static. It's not ecstatic, but it's never static. And if our happiness depends on trying to manipulate and keep these conditions together, as we say in California, you are cruising for a bruising. It doesn't. But if our happiness depends on our consciousness, in any condition, we have Haridas Thakur living with a snake. It was his disappearance day yesterday. I mean, where do you want to start? I mean, I've seen, we just had a devotee, disciple of Indradumna Swami. Her name is Shamali. I knew her since she was born, literally since she was born. Married to a wonderful devotee, first-class parents. She's, works as a school teacher in Alachua at our Gurukula. Every summer was one of the key managers of Indradumna Swami's festival,
Festival tours, yes.
Yeah, his summer festival. Turns out she got some kind of cancer. She had literally 4 weeks. They said, you've got 3 to 6 months. Turned out being about 3 months. That the way that family, the way she took it, profoundly helped by her parents, by her husband, by Indradumna Maharaj, by the Alachua community, by devotees out here. Everybody stepped up to the plate, as they say. Everybody manned up or womaned up, whatever you want. Everybody, and she was so brave. She was consoling her family members and her husband. She left with Indradumna Swami chanting, surrounded by devotees, and it's all because of Bhagavatam. That which devastates people, birth, death, old age, and disease. This world is no fun.
Did she say as much?
Oh, she said, I've got letters from her. We're doing a memorial on the 6th. I forget the link and all that stuff, but you can also get it online. I forget, you ask around, you send me an email, I'll send it to you. But no, her own statements, the letter. I got a letter from her. It arrived like 4 days after she left, thanking me for helping her. I'm a hard-hearted guy. It brought tears to my eyes. The letter was so well written, so thick in Krishna consciousness, so saturated with Vaishnava etiquette. I thought, who is this person? But again, the whole family stood up. Everybody stood up. Everybody, the Alachua community, everybody came through. And it's because we're reading Prabhupada's books. And it becomes, we are garbage in, garbage out. Or transcendental subject matter in, transcendental subject matter coming out. So we can end there. I don't want to repeat myself, but we should measure our good fortune every day.
Well, at the end of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto, this pastime of Shamali Mataji that you just described is embodied in the passing away of Parikshit Maharaj in much the same complete absorption in Krishna. So, Maharaj, we are ever so grateful for leaving us dumbfounded and stunned with the realizations of your own realizations of what you saw, Srila Prabhupada, when he was, as you said, bringing it all together for us and presenting to us. We hope that we can continue to hear from you on this topic. And I hope that the listeners and all of us will feel inspired and be able to pick up the Srimad Bhagavatam and read it, as you said. Don't get hung up about how much, when, where. Just do it. And I'm in the Madhya
All right,
Leela.
Prabhu.
In the Madhya Leela, I'm reminded of another funny incident. Patadharis, right after this incident that you mentioned, they tried to attack Mahaprabhu when he was trying to rescue Krishnadas, his servant. And it's so dramatically explained there that suddenly the weapons that they were carrying, these false sannyasis, to hit Mahaprabhu, they turned on them and chopped their hands and legs. And I just burst out laughing. I was also reading.
My favorite part of that is their beards caught on fire. I mean, where do you want to start? There's the whole description of, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Vrindavan. And we've seen Krishna dancing on the Kaliya serpent. There's a fisherman with a lamp, you know? I mean,
Yes.
All right, Prabhu, I better go. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.